a controversial new proposal has emerged from Israel, sparking intense debate both within the country and across the globe. The plan, which has quickly become a focal point of international attention, is being discussed at the highest levels of government and policy circles. At its core, the proposal involves relocating hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from Gaza to other countries, a move that would dramatically alter the lives of those affected and potentially reshape the region's demographic landscape. According to reports, Israel has reached out to several nations, including Ethiopia, Indonesia, and Libya, to explore the possibility of accepting Gazan refugees. This approach revives an old idea, now resurfacing as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza grows more severe with each passing day. While Israeli officials describe the plan as voluntary relocation, critics and human rights advocates argue that, given the widespread destruction and ongoing violence in Gaza, any decision to leave is made under extreme pressure and hardship, rather than true choice. The proposal has ignited a fierce global debate, raising urgent questions about international law, the rights of refugees, and the long-term future of the Palestinian people. Legal experts and humanitarian organizations are weighing in, warning of the potential consequences for regional stability and human rights. Gaza's population, battered by months of relentless conflict, airstrikes, and repeated displacement, now faces a stark and uncertain reality. Most residents have already been forced to flee their homes, many more than once, and the prospect of permanent relocation adds another layer of fear and uncertainty to their daily lives. As news of the plan spreads, the world is watching closely. Many wonder if this proposal will fundamentally reshape the region, undermine hopes for a two-state solution, and force a new, urgent conversation about sovereignty, national identity, and the right of people to remain in their homeland. The fate of Gaza's people now hangs in the balance as the international community weighs the far-reaching consequences of such a massive and unprecedented population movement. The coming weeks and months will be critical in determining what lies ahead for those caught in the crossfire of history. The next phase of Israel's ambitious plan unfolded in the heart of Washington, D.C., a city where global strategies are shaped and alliances are tested. Here, the stakes were high and every conversation carried weight. Mossad chief David Barnea arrived with a clear mission: to secure American backing for Israel's controversial proposal. His visit was marked by a series of discreet but high-stakes meetings with top U.S. officials, each one crucial to the plan's future. In these meetings, Barnea disclosed Israel's ongoing negotiations with Ethiopia, Indonesia, and Libya, countries that could potentially play a pivotal role in absorbing refugees. He emphasized the delicate nature of these talks and the need for American diplomatic muscle to help seal the deals. Barnea urged the U.S. to leverage its global influence, offering incentives or guarantees that might persuade these nations to cooperate. The hope was that American involvement would lend legitimacy and momentum to the relocation effort. Yet, the American response was measured and cautious. U.S. officials listened intently, but stopped short of making any commitments, aware of the potential diplomatic fallout. The U.S. remains wary of alienating key Arab allies or appearing to endorse a plan that could violate international law and further destabilize an already volatile region. Domestic and international pressures weigh heavily on every decision. For Israel, the strategy is straightforward: gain the support of a superpower to legitimize, fund, and facilitate the mass relocation. Such backing would be a game-changer, opening doors and easing negotiations with potential host countries. But with Washington's cool, non-committal stance, Israel faces the daunting prospect of advancing its plan without the endorsement or resources of its most powerful ally. This diplomatic push highlights just how complex and fraught the process is. Convincing nations to accept a large influx of refugees is a monumental challenge, fraught with political, social, and economic risks. As the dust settles in Washington, the future of Israel's plan remains deeply uncertain, hinging on its ability to persuade host countries, perhaps now, more than ever, on its own. Israel's government, led by Prime Minister Netanyahu, insists the plan is a humanitarian option for those wishing to leave devastated Gaza. The Mossad was tasked with finding host countries, highlighting the plan's priority and the need for secrecy. The idea isn't new. Similar proposals have surfaced before, only to be abandoned after international backlash. Israel argues that reducing Gaza's population is a security measure, hoping fewer people will mean fewer future threats. Critics see this as a thinly veiled attempt at permanent displacement, not a genuine humanitarian gesture. The Mossad's involvement signals both the sensitivity and the high stakes of the plan. The debate centers on whether this is a compassionate response or a strategic move to reshape the region's demographics. The relocation proposal has drawn fierce condemnation for its legal and political implications. International law forbids forced population transfers, and many argue that voluntary choices made under war and deprivation are not truly free. For Palestinians, the plan echoes the trauma of the Nakba, mass displacement in 1948, and raises fears of a second catastrophe. Neighboring countries like Egypt and Jordan worry about being forced to absorb refugees, threatening their own stability. Far-right Israeli politicians openly support the plan, fueling suspicions that it's about erasing the Palestinian presence, not humanitarian relief. The world sees the proposal as a dangerous step toward permanent dispossession, cloaked in the language of choice. Gaza's devastation is staggering. Entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble, millions displaced, and basic necessities scarce. Most Gazans have fled their homes multiple times now, living in overcrowded shelters with little food, water, or medical care. Humanitarian agencies warn of famine and disease, while hospitals struggle to treat the wounded. The psychological toll is immense, especially on children who have known nothing but war and loss. In this context, voluntary relocation is a choice made from desperation, not freedom. For some, leaving may seem like the only escape from an unbearable reality. The collapse of daily life in Gaza makes the debate over relocation deeply complex and personal. The crisis has left Gazans facing impossible decisions about their future. Despite Israel's outreach, Ethiopia, Indonesia, and Libya have remained silent on the refugee plan. Their caution reflects the immense political and social risks of accepting large numbers of Gazans. Ethiopia faces its own internal conflicts and resource shortages, making refugee resettlement a daunting prospect. Indonesia, a strong supporter of Palestine, would face public outrage if seen as enabling Israel's plan. Libya, mired in civil war and lacking a stable government, is in no position to absorb refugees. Each country's silence signals deep reluctance to get involved in such a controversial scheme. The political realities in all three nations make their participation highly unlikely. The lack of public engagement underscores the plan's diplomatic fragility. Across Gaza and the West Bank, Palestinians have overwhelmingly and unequivocally rejected the idea of relocation, viewing it not as a humanitarian gesture, but as a direct threat to their very existence and identity. For many, the proposal is seen as an attempt to erase their history and sever their deep-rooted connection to their homeland. The fear is not just about losing homes, but about losing the essence of who they are as a people. Leaders from both Hamas and the Palestinian Authority have spoken out forcefully, declaring that Palestinians will not abandon their ancestral land, regardless of the suffering or hardship they endure. They emphasize that their struggle is not just for survival, but for the right to live freely and with dignity in their own country. The concept of sumud, steadfastness in the face of adversity, remains a powerful force in Palestinian society. It is reflected in daily acts of resilience, from tending to olive trees to rebuilding homes destroyed by conflict. This spirit of endurance is woven into the fabric of Palestinian identity and resistance. Memories of the Nakba, the mass displacement of 1948, and the enduring hope of return are passed down through generations. These stories, symbols, and dreams make any discussion of leaving their land deeply painful and emotionally charged for Palestinians of all ages. Palestinian leaders argue that the international community should focus its efforts on ending the conflict, lifting the blockade, and rebuilding Gaza, rather than proposing resettlement or relocation. They insist that true peace can only come from justice and the restoration of rights. They firmly reject any negotiations or decisions about their future that do not include their voices, perspectives, and agency. For Palestinians, self-determination is not just a slogan, but a fundamental right. The right to remain on their land is non-negotiable. Relocation is widely seen as a form of surrender, a loss of national rights, and a betrayal of generations who have struggled to stay rooted in Palestine. The unified message from Palestinians is clear. Their home is, and always will be, Palestine. Their ongoing struggle is for freedom, dignity, and the right to live on their own land, no matter the obstacles they face. The refugee plan has split global opinion, with some seeing it as pragmatic humanitarianism and others as a moral and legal outrage. Supporters argue that, given Gaza's destruction, resettlement could offer safety and a new start for those with nowhere to return. Economic incentives for host countries could benefit both refugees and local populations. Critics counter that the plan punishes victims, sets a dangerous precedent, and undermines international law. They argue it's a strategic move to weaken Palestinian national identity and make a future state impossible. For Palestinians and allies, the right to live in their homeland is non-negotiable. Accepting permanent resettlement is seen as abandoning the struggle for statehood and justice. As the world digests Israel's relocation plan, uncertainty and anxiety dominate the future. With no firm U.S. support and silence from potential host nations, the plan's viability is in doubt. The core question remains: can any choice to leave Gaza be truly voluntary amid such devastation? Human rights groups warn that coercion is inevitable, making international endorsement unlikely. For Gazans, the debate is not abstract. It's a personal, agonizing decision between exile and survival. The controversy highlights the urgent need for a real solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, not just population transfers. Without hope for a sovereign Palestinian state, the cycle of violence and displacement will continue, leaving millions in limbo.